I'll
So
let you
I
expand.
wanted to read Dr. Pershing's lines, his message to Moff Gideon, because that kind of unpacks everything we need to know about kind of where we've been and where the show might go. So here it is verbatim from the show. Dr. Pershing says, replicated the results of the subsequent trials, which also resulted in catastrophic failure. There were promising effects for an entire fortnight, but then sadly, the body rejected the blood. I highly doubt we'll find a donor with a higher M count, though. I recommend that we suspend all experimentation. I fear that the volunteer will meet the same regrettable fate if we proceed with the transfusion. Unfortunately, we have exhausted our initial supply of blood. The child is a small, and I was only able to harvest a limited amount of without killing him. If these experiments are to continue as requested, we would again require access to the donor. I will not disappoint you again, Moff Gideon. And that's the end of his quote. So, right, that single message unpacked it so much. And it kind of like, I had, I was like kind of caught off guard because the episode, it did feel like it was kind of starting out as like, oh, it's a little filler, right? This
Yeah,
is, it's fine. He needs to get more repairs on the ship he already repaired, but
actual repairs.
yeah, right. I was like, I can deal with a little filler where we reunite some of the old cast and stuff, whatever. But then it hit us with that, like walking into the cloning room, and then the guy's message. So I actually had to go back twice to re-listen because I was so taken off guard, and I had to listen to this again and again because it said so much in such a little amount of time. It brings up midichlorians. I know they don't say it, but M count, it's
You know
midichlorians.
what it is.
I should have worn my midichlorian shirt today because
And know what they actually, like officialized in that statement as well? My
what?
transfusion theory is a thing.
Yeah,
Like my total joke about a transfusion theory is a thing.
right. And
They
considering that
confirmed that.
I, everyone hears it here first, and with the bodies in the tubes that we're thinking might be Snoke. Now, this proof for the theory that Baby Yoda's blood was used to help create Snoke? Is that what we're getting at
I
here?
think I don't think it's even that. I think it's Palpatine and Snoke because Palpatine's body in the books they said it is deteriorating and rejecting something.
Right.
If if like it just said that we're reject like Baby Yoda's blood was being rejected, that is at least kind of hinting at whether it was the child or somebody else. It just confirmed that it actually was the Empire that may have started the cloning process as the fallback for Palpatine, which is
Yeah.
just crazy to think about because a lot of people were thinking that he just used that. I can't think of which force power it is, but basically how the dark side users could teleport their essence to somebody else, which is also canon because if Rey struck her down, or not her down, but struck Palpatine down, the essence would have transferred to Rey.
Another thing interesting from what Dr. Pershing said is he mentioned the fact that he fears that the volunteer uh, will be suspended from the experiment because they don't think they will suffer the same regrettable fate of the other failed attempts. So this brings up two questions. One, who is the volunteer? Is it someone we know, or is it an
It could be
unintroduced
Snoke.
character? Is
It
Snoke?
could be Snoke, where he was the volunteer, and that's why they kept regenerating him.
So
It
Snoke
could
was
be that
not
simple.
only a created being, but he was also a being before that, a completely different
Yeah.
version.
Well, you've never seen something just truly created from the ground up in Star Wars. That's not how cloning works, at least not in our world. Now, this is Star Wars that we're talking about, so it
Right.
could be that they just had to make their own thing, but it's not like Anakin built C3PO because that's a
Right.
robot. We know that he built. Um, when the Chosen One was willed into existence in canon and some of the Darth Vader comic books and other comic books, um, basically Anakin was willed into existence, but through natural processes. We haven't heard of I genetically engineered a being.
Right.
So opinion, Snoke has to start from somewhere. And was Snoke somebody that was just because let's be honest, we know Snoke was some rich alien in the
Yeah.
galaxy because gold garb and everything like that, and just the attitude, and also what we know about the Kylo comics, where he did have some presence. We can kind of assume that he had to get rich somehow. Was
Right.
he gold rolled or whatever that saying is by the Empire? Was he just funded in whatever he was doing, and then basically that's how he got rich? Maybe it was we're going to clone you and give you force powers because he did have the force. But there's so much to unpack there where I think the volunteer is Snoke because
Interesting.
we haven't seen somebody genetically created. We've seen clones. Clones are genetically created, but that was through we already have the DNA template and moving that over. It's not we're gonna form this DNA template and then it also explains Snoke's scars. We always thought he may have gotten in a battle with somebody
Right.
and like Luke or like that. Now it's like were the scars actually from just the forming process of the cloning? Because we do know he's a
Right.
clone. We never really revisited that. Is this where the original Snoke has all those issues? Or was what we saw in Force Awakens the original Snoke? And that was the damage that he
Yeah.
suffered from being here. There's a lot of ways that they could take this.
And in the cloning tube, you can kind of see on the head of this being a little scar there, which is
Exactly.
it's got to be Snoke. If it's not, it's a great misdirect. But I, anyway, the second question that brings up is let's say that Snoke is the volunteer. Okay, this project is being helmed by Moff Gideon, and Moff Gideon is obviously in this scenario working under Palpatine's order to play out this experiment. Does this get rid of the theory that Moff Gideon is a force sensitive? Because wouldn't he be the volunteer or the donor if he was? Or could he still possibly have force powers? Because I know this was a theory I've been hearing a lot before this episode.
I just don't think he's force sensitive.
You never
I
thought
think
that?
he just I've heard the theories, but I've never thought it. It was something I couldn't really buy into. Um, I also like the thought of the first person ever, like I guess in filming minus Zenobia Spin ended up being force sensitive. Moff Gideon would be the first person ever to wield a lightsaber and not be force sensitive. Not the first, because I guess the Mandalorian, just in general, whoever wields the dark saber, I guess first evil person that
Yeah.
isn't force sensitive to wield a lightsaber. So it's I kind of just like the thought of him being on his own, just kind of having that as his close range weapon, rather than being able to do the force pull, force push, lightning, whatever the case may be.
I do too. I don't think he's force sensitive. I think one of the reasons why he's so attached to this project is because he might want to be, and he knows
Yep.
that doing this experiment would possibly get him the chance to wield that power.